5, 4, 3. CGP Video Pictures presents Trek Tonight, Season 3. This week, Lower Decks. With your hosts, Christopher Pitcher, Leo Byrne-Janicek, and Keith Jacobson. Tonight's review, Lower Decks Season Finale. And now live from New York City, Wilmington, Delaware, and Everett, Washington, it's Trek Tonight.
Hello, everybody.
Hey there.
Say hi, Saber.
Hello, Trekkers, and welcome to another episode of Trek Tonight. I have returned from my illness, which is sort of gone. But at any rate, we are here tonight. We're going to talk about the last two episodes of Lower Decks. I thought quite a good two-part season finale.
Oh, God, I agree.
Really enjoyable. I thought the last episode, and of course we'll get to them, but just off the top, I thought the last episode was exciting and reminded you of any Trek that I would enjoy watching. So I thought that was really quite good. I
agree. I think these two last episodes were spot on. I love them. Two things to mention. One, the writer's strike, not the writers, the actor strike is now over. So, which means we will the new Trek is in the offing. So,
yay!
Hopefully,
get back to, and also, Star Trek Prodigy will be on Netflix starting Christmas Day. So,
oh, what a gift!
If you feel that season 1 is going to be premiering on Netflix, so. It is something you can share with the whole family since it is geared. Well, it is geared towards a younger audience. I think it is still enjoyable.
Oh yeah,
to an older audience. So there you go, a little unexpected Christmas gift.
Yes, after you've ripped open all the gifts and you throw the wrapping paper on the Yule log, you can sit down and watch Star Trek Prodigy. Is that going to drop all at once, or is it going to get eked out?
I think it's going to drop all at once, but I'm not 100% sure.
Okay.
If they're going to break it up, I imagine they would break it up like Paramount did. Although Netflix, when they put everything, they tend to drop it all when they have it.
Right.
Unless it's something that's ongoing, like the Great British Baking Show, which I am a fan of. I find it very soothing, and they're dropping those on Friday now, and I think. They are maybe a little behind the British release, but I'm not entirely sure. See, I've got a lot of vague facts, but no solid actual research has been put into
this. So what about season 2? What about season 2 of Prodigy?
Next year. It's going to start next year sometime. I don't think they've given a date yet.
Hey, Angela's here, and she says, yo,
Angela!
yo, yo.
Woo!
Angela, good to see you.
Yo.
Angela's in the house.
Nice to see you. Feels like ages since I've seen you.
Yes.
Well, it's been ages since we've seen you. I mean,
Yes.
So that's exciting. I will say that the little teaser they dropped for season 2 of Prodigy, really looked good.
It does.
I'm excited for that to roll around.
I am quite excited for that. But we excuse me.
Yeah.
We still have these last two gems from Lower Decks to discuss. So maybe we should get started on that. Yes.
All right. Well, do you want to give us a nutshell of episode 9, what that was about? One of you guys?
Sure.
Yeah.
I just rewatched them today.
Okay.
Because it'd been a week, and I thought we were doing it last week, and we didn't. So, first episode, people are noticing that Mariner's becoming more and more reckless, is giving a sort of disregard to her own personal safety. The captain is concerned and sends Boimler, Tendi, and T'Lyn to give her a distracting mission while they are going to investigate Nicholas Locarno, one of 4 ex-Starfleet officers who are being targeted in relation to these missing ships.
Right.
The, the mission there. This is the cold open, where they're on a planet where outpost scientists are investigating these horrible creatures whose skin excretes like a neurotoxin. Their blood is acid, and
Yes.
if you touch one, your eyes explode out of your head.
Yeah.
So
as you do.
yeah, you can see them wearing the outpost scientist outfit with those distinctive belts that we saw
Yes.
last season. So while the Cerritos is going to sort of a lawless planet to try to find out where Nicholas Locarno is,
Right.
and things go badly, except they are actually going right on plan. And at the end, we discover that Nicholas Locarno is indeed the big bad of this season.
Right.
Well,
I
our
love
other
this.
heroes are,
One quick thing. I love
yeah,
the observation window,
yes,
which of course has gotten cracked because the aliens
yes.
broke
Ooh,
out.
wait, stop. Don't go away yet. You know what I just noticed?
What?
Look at the acid suits they're wearing.
Yes.
Yeah, very.
Those are the TOS spacewalking suits.
Yes, they are.
They are. They're very.
Yep.
The color's a little different, but it looks like this is the planetary because they call them venom suits.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that is the like a variation. Like I said, our other heroes are trapped on a planet. Discovering that they're the crews of the disappeared ships, the captains and first officers, are stranded on this very dangerous planet.
Right.
So what's going on with that? We'll discuss.
Yeah. And for some reason, unfortunately, I couldn't find any images of that. At least in the time I had allotted myself to look for images. But yeah, you had. So who all was there? We had Ferengi, we had Rob, we had Klingons,
we had classic Gorn.
Yep.
No, Gorn. Well, there was Gorn on the outlaw planet.
On the outlaw planet, yes.
But there were Orions, Binars, and Cardassians.
Right.
On the Klingons, or at least one. There was only one Klingon. It was Mahar, who we remember from Wijadu, the season finale, season 2, where you got to see lower decks of the Vulcan ship and the Klingon ship. So it is a terrible planet where it rains glass.
I really want to understand how the meteorology of that works.
Yeah, well,
it just does. It works well and terribly at the same time.
Yes.
Let's which half of the episode do you want to address first?
Let's talk about the because I feel like in many ways the Mariner bit is the more important bit.
Yes.
So let's save that and talk about the Rebel Planet bit, the Star Wars planet.
It was sort of Tatooine,
yes.
Mos Eisley, and
right.
They are given the bum's rush. The Cerritos, they're yelled at by like the control towers. Like, you can't just park your starship right there, and it's going to affect our upper atmosphere. And then they basically let a bounty hunter just cruise right in.
Right.
They make them go to another moon and take a shuttle there.
And the shuttle's every 3 hours, so
every 3 hours, and apparently very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Freeman, Shax, and Rutherford go to that planet. They try to go into a bar called Mudd's, which I assume is a nod to Harry Mudd.
Yeah.
But they're not on the reservation list, so they have to wait 2 hours, and then because they are smartasses, they have to wait another half hour to get in.
But yet other people waltz right in.
But yes. But the same bounty hunter whose spaceship got landing permissions before theirs did just walks on by.
Yeah.
Now
they are wearing, which at first I was kind of curious about. They're wearing their Starfleet uniforms.
Yes.
But that was actually Captain Freeman's idea.
Yes. So they finally get in, and there's what basically looks like Blaylock.
Yeah.
The Corbinite maneuver. He's
Yeah.
like, I am the
Oh.
information broker. And he
And
twists his head,
he's
spins
moving in
around, and
that.
starts it out. And Freeman is having none of it. And she picks him up, and she's like, "Oh, I think he's a puppet." And she picks him up and shakes him, and then these like tiny little spindly arms and legs come like flopping out from his robe.
Yeah.
And we also discovered that Rutherford has X-ray vision through his implant. It's like
Yeah.
Happy's got all sorts of internal organs and everything, and she puts it down and explains. He's like, I wasn't going to sell this information because they're looking for Locarno. He says, now I'm going to sell it to anybody but you.
Yeah.
And of course they're whiffing it bad, and then the hunter who we saw before comes up, drops a sack of presumably latinum or some other currency.
Yeah.
He gets the information, just fucks off, and they're like get thrown out of the bar.
Yeah.
And they're all just Rutherford and Shax are very depressed because it was like, oh, we failed our mission. She's like, no, it all went perfectly. The bounty hunter is Billups, our chief engineer, who says, boy, your head gets really sweaty because he's wearing this big helmet and his voice is all digitized. Even his hair is like a little messy. He takes it off. And they get the information to where Locarno is.
Kind of like Princess Leia in
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
There was a lot. This episode had a lot of nods to I would say Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah. You know what? It was funny too, because there actually is a novel. Now I've got to remember what it's called, but there is a novel that deals with who Baylock actually modeled that puppet after, and apparently they were a race of people that terrorized his race for years, and that's where he got the idea of that. It's in a book. I don't know that it's canon necessarily.
I'm not sure it's canon, but
when I saw him in there, because I'm like, well, yeah, according to that book, they actually were aliens.
It's kind of interesting because they're both fairly small. Like Blaylock was played by young Clint Howard,
right?
Who was, I want to say 4 or 5, maybe younger. Like because he looked like almost like a toddler, although he was.
I think he was old enough to know that he hated drinking whatever they put in the glass for the Tranya.
Tranya.
Yeah,
not a fan of Tranya or whatever.
No, he was forced. He was made to drink it, and he hated that. By the way, Joe Townsend gave us a thumbs up.
Hey,
thank you, Joe.
Thank you, Joe.
Hey, Joe.
Good to hear from friend of the show, Joe Townsend.
Yes.
So yeah, it's he. So there was a lot of Star Wars, and the whole thing has a very Mos Eisley vibe to it, and there were a lot of we saw Gorn walking around down on the planet and other species that I'm not recalling now. I should have made notes, but they get the location for Locarno where he is, and they go to it's like a hangar, and nobody's answering. They're taking out the phasers already spread out, and they're looking like is he in danger? Has he been kidnapped already? And they see the blueprints for the mysterious ship up on the wall, and they're like, "Oh my God!" They realize that he is behind all this.
Yeah.
Which was, I'll be honest, I in a million years, I don't think I would have guessed that Nick Locarno was the big bad of this season.
No, I wouldn't have either. That was a great hidden treat.
That was a great, that was also fun.
And here's the thing: is it feels like every season of Lower Decks, they sort of touch on Star Trek, other Star Trek shows,
right?
Like DS9 and so on. This is sort of Voyager was I guess it was the third, but so maybe you would see TOS, TNG, DS9, and then Voyager's season 4. So it sort of makes sense, but it was terrific. My hats off to them. Nobody was guessing Locarno.
No, we had all kinds.
Nobody.
None of them were about that.
No.
Yeah.
So here's my favorite bit about this whole segment here.
Yes, please.
Yes.
And I have said this before, and I've had a little bit of time to think about this some more.
Right.
And I sometimes I wonder if the producers and the writers are putting as much thought into it as I'm giving them credit for.
Okay.
But this whole season, Captain Freeman has stepped up and shown herself to be an outstanding captain.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
This whole thing where they go down to the planet dressed in their Federation uniforms,
Right.
is all a distraction and is all to set up Billups, who's made up to look like a bounty hunter,
Right.
so that he could get the information that they're looking for. And it's an outstanding plan. It's a plan that I would love to be a GM for if my players came up with something like that.
Right.
Or I'd love to be a
And
player and come up with an idea.
Yeah, worthy of any of the classic Trek captains.
It was worthy of any of the classic Trek and
Yeah.
and I think I'm actually picked this up on some other video I was watching where they were talking about it, but this season, Captain Freeman has taken a step back from keeping track of her daughter. She has essentially made that Ransom's job.
Right.
Yes.
And that has allowed her to focus on being a really good captain. And holy
Right.
shit, she has, now that she's not spending every single waking moment trying to control Mariner, Captain Freeman has turned out to be an outstanding captain.
Yeah.
This plan with Billups pretending to be a bounty hunter and them being a distraction is perfect. It's
Yeah,
perfect.
it's
So
great.
Yeah.
and
I completely agree. It shows that all the characters have evolved from one degree to another. Saber disagrees. Well, Saber is very vocal tonight.
he's
Uh,
maybe I
he's
should
like,
start
"That
locking
was
him
my
downstairs
idea."
for these.
He-
Yes.
That or he wants credit for his ideas.
Yes.
Saber is just a contrary. He's just a contrarian. That's all.
Well, this is well known.
Yes.
But yeah, I agree. I think like Ransom has also become a much better executive officer.
Mm-hmm.
And the way he's dealing with Mariner, because I think the point is that once they stop seeing Mariner as a problem and seeing her as somebody who needs to be nurtured or
Right.
guided,
Mm-hmm.
it's despite her sort of recent dangerous behavior, it's made them better officers because instead of being like, oh, Mariner, what are you doing? You're gonna send you to the brig. They're like, okay, you're actually a good officer, but you need to be given some nurturing and some guidance. So,
Which is now I'm getting a little confused, but which is the episode where Freeman gathers everybody together is that the season finale where everybody gets gathered together to talk about how she wants them to come up with a way of protecting Mariner?
I'm not.
This one.
well, in this one, yeah, that's the beginning where she's like, my daughter's trying to kill herself, and she's like,
Right.
what's
That's
going
what I
on?
thought.
And, yeah, and she's trying to see like you guys are her best friends. What's going on? And they're like, yeah, we don't know. It's kind of weird. And so, also here's just a little Easter egg because they said they're looking for 4 ex-Federation officers.
Right.
So it is 7 of 9.
Yeah.
Dr. Beverly Crusher,
Right.
Thomas Riker, who now canonically is
Still alive.
still around. Like I
Yeah.
guess he escaped Cardassian work camp,
Mm-hmm.
and Nicholas Locarno.
Yeah.
So Boimler is very excited about meeting Beverly Crusher,
Yay.
and which comes up again later in the episode. But they're like, no, the Vancouver's has that duty. So,
Yes.
but yeah, no, that is the beginning. And she says thank you to them, like because they come up like we're going to go on this boring mission, and we'll sort
Right.
of keep her out of trouble. And it should be a boring mission where they were sort of shifting over to the other storyline, which is a little more detailed. There's a weather satellite in this remote area of space, and they're like, oh, this could be really dangerous. She's like, and Tillin says it will be 2.4% more perilous if you do not know the details. She's like, tell me nothing.
Yes.
I love that. I am
Yeah.
so glad to have her
Spoilers.
part of the show.
Talen
Oh,
is
Tillin is
I really am.
chef's kiss.
Yeah.
We've missed that sort of Vulcan snark and
Yes.
the sort of not the clueless, but the way the Vulcans would be like, what are you kidding me? He says, I do not kid. I am a Vulcan. It's that sort of the way she's not exactly Spock, but she has a bit of that Spock sort of vibe to her.
Yeah.
Because she's dealing with all these very emotional humans and Orion. So they take off, and it is, of course, it's boring. Although
she clearly, just to jump in, she clearly has gained some affection for Tendi, don't you think?
I think so, definitely, because we'll talk about that at the very end of this.
Yeah.
But she definitely is a little more open to friendships with our heroes.
Yes.
Which is nice. I mean, she's not a chanter. I don't think she'll ever be a chanter, like lower decks. But she seems. I don't know if warmer is the right word, because she's not really warm.
No.
But she definitely seems to have a Vulcan level of affection for our
she's
heroes.
warm in a Vulcan sort of way.
Yes, as by Vulcan standards, she is
quite emotional.
compelling, as they say in Yiddish. So they go off, and they're like, Tendy's like, it's a little weird. This satellite, somebody was tampered with it, and there's like all these storms on the planet, and they're like, that's a little odd, because it's sort of in the middle of nowhere. This is not like it's an uninhabited planet, or it's like there's no indigenous like civilization. And they're like, well, we're going to go back, and Mariner's all annoyed that there's no peril. And then a Klingon bird of prey who detected them earlier shows up and starts attacking. And
this is your fault.
Yeah.
This is your fault. You wished for this.
Yeah. But they get to emergency beam down just before the shuttle is destroyed, and they're on this, let's call it a horror show of a planet.
Yeah.
And they discovered that there are stranded Romulans, Ferengi, Klingons on this planet, Cardassians. As we discovered, these are the command crews from these ships that have disappeared.
Right.
Mariner is determined to, she's like, whoever the alpha predator is here, I want them to know I'm the alpha predator. He's like, what is wrong with you? But they find shelter, and they climb up the top of this tree. They get into a brief fight with this Romulan, and who is trying to trap this Klingon with the help of a Ferengi. So things are really sort of a bizarro world on this planet.
Right.
But they find shelter. Like Mariner gets knocked out, and they drag her off, and then they decide to find shelter. She's like, yeah, if we have the higher ground or the shelter, we'll be able to find our enemies. They're like, stop it, and they find this sort of like wood cave at the top of a tree. That's the best way to describe it. And they also say, oh, there's a communications relay station which was connected to the satellite. We could use that to contact the Federation and get rescue. But you see there are fires, and there are other, clearly there are other people here. And they're like, well, we could just take the long way. She's like, screw that. I'm just, if they want to fight, I'll fight. And they finally admit, like, listen, we're supposed to keep you out of trouble. And she's like, what? And she's all pissed off. And she's like, fine, let's try to get some sleep. But when we wake up, maybe people won't be dicks. Boimler complains about finding sticks in his boot after they get to the top. He's like, oh, I've got sticks in my boot. It's a very Boimler line. She wakes up in the middle of the night and sneaks out of the cave with and Boimler's going, it's like, Beverly Crusher, teach me to tap dance. Which was a wonderful throwback to Data's Day, where Dr. Crusher teaches Data how to dance because he's going to be giving away Keiko at her and O'Brien's wedding, and he doesn't know how to dance. And she's like, I don't want to be like if they call me the dancing doctor, I think I would. I don't know what she threatens him with, but she's not. She definitely doesn't want to be known as the dancing doctor.
Right.
Which is funny because Gates McFadden herself has a background in dance. She was she worked in Broadway. So
there you
go. Little Star Trek nugget. It's somebody else should jump in because I'm just rambling.
So Mariner sneaks off. She goes in search to try to get to the communications relay, and the Klingon jumps her. The Klingon gets away, and they start fighting, and they start having words and banter, and then this hell planet, it starts to rain glass as it does.
As it does on this planet. This is Mahar, who we remember from the Wizardoo, the season 2 finale, the lower decker who becomes captain of the Klingon bird of prey.
Yes.
And also the fact, like when the glass starts coming down, he pulls it out. Right. He has that Pepto-Bismol blood that we saw.
Yes.
Which we never really saw. I don't think we saw it during TNG. Like they went back to just having regular blood.
That was from the movie.
But I do love that Pepto-Bismol blood.
Yeah.
Just because it's just different. Yes, there you go.
So they decide to put their fight on hold for a little while.
Yes.
Because it's raining glass, and they go back to a cave, and Mariner is still all going, let's fight them, and he's going, there's not enough room in here to fight. We will fight when the storm ends. And then they have essentially is the key moment of the show.
Yes.
Where Mariner, he goes, "You are Starfleet, but you are also a warrior." And Mariner goes, "I'm not a warrior." And then he goes, "Well, you are at war with yourself." And then finally, she opens up to him because you know what? One of the two of them is going to be dead in the morning. So,
what does it matter?
So she opens up to him, and we find out that the reason she's been acting like this is because once she got promoted, she's afraid. Sito died. Her friend, her. We find out that Sito was her. She looked up to Sito.
Yeah.
When she was in the academy, and she was actually kind of, and then she got promoted, and she got died, and Sito just wanted to be an explorer, and then then wars happened, and people died, and she doesn't want to have to send people off to get killed. She just wants to be an ensign.
Yes, Sito, if you remember, was in the original episode Lower Decks, which is about a group of ensigns on the Enterprise, and they're all hoping to get promoted.
Right.
And Sito first appeared on, now I can't remember the name of the episode, with Wesley Crusher and Nova Squadron, the only appearance of Nicholas Locarno. She was part of Nova Squad, and Sito was like her idol. She didn't want to be a spy. She didn't want to fight. She just wanted to explore, and she's carrying all this residual guilt, even though it is not her fault. But she feels like if you have responsibilities, you might ask somebody to go and die, and she doesn't want to do that. She's like, that's like, I believe in Starfleet. I believe in the mission. I want to be an explorer. I want to find new and interesting things. I don't want to go to war, because he's like, oh, you were the Dominion War. There's like, the shapeshifter sent the Jem'Hadar sent many Klingons to Sto-vo-kor. It was glorious. She's like, no, it wasn't. It was terrible. It was just a slaughter. Right. And it was a great moment, and I love them tying it into existing lore. That Sito was a character that we met twice, but I think she made an impression. I was always bummed we didn't get to see more of Sito
Yes.
who does die on the mission that Picard sends her on. Um, Although he doesn't like order her. He asks, he says, "Listen, this is a volunteer. I can't order you to do this," but she
Right.
volunteers. Um, and Picard was giving her like a really hard time because of what happened with Nova Squad, and she's finally like, "I'm tired of being judged. I've made up for that. I had to go through a whole another year. I lost all my friends. Like nobody wanted to talk to me, but I stuck with it.
Right.
And either you believe in me, like, or you don't. Like, if you want, send me to another ship because I don't want to be treated like this." And that's the thing that makes him appreciate the person she's become.
Right.
So I was it's always been curious why Mariner has been sort of this agent of chaos, like why she doesn't want to get promoted, why she's been promoted and demoted like a dozen times, it seems. It's because she's like, "I just want to be an ensign. It was good enough for Cito. It's good enough for me."
Yeah. And that was kind of interesting.
And Mahas, is that his name? Mahas? Did I get
Maha.
that right? Maha.
Maha.
Maha basically, verbally smacks Manor upside the head and saying, "You dishonor Cito's sacrifice. Is this what Cito want you to do?" And Mariner goes, "Hey, you're right.
Yeah.
Damn it." And then then they hug it out. Then they hug, and the Klingon go, "Klingons don't hug." That was the picture you posted.
Yes. And
nope, we're friends
she says,
now.
"Well, we're working together. We're allies." Like, "We are not." He's like, "Yep, no, we are." And
I love that.
I do love that. That was a great moment. And so they go off to try to find the station in a forest filled with shards of glass sticking out of trees in the ground. Also, two other sort of Star Wars notes of this. The sort of little hideout they did had a slightly Dagobah-ish. It wasn't a swampy planet, but it had that sort of like natural sort of architecture kind of deal.
Yeah.
And the relay station looks very much like the Imperial station that the rebels are looking to blow up in Return of the Jedi.
Right.
So
it's interesting. There was a lot of nods. I mean, I would have to think it was on purpose, don't you?
Oh yeah, I definitely think so. And it was a nice, it's like, it's funny. There is some contention between the fandoms, although I've always found that puzzling because it's like you can only like one. Like why?
Yeah, right.
It's like it's not like you can't have. It's like saying it's just ridiculous.
Yeah,
because I've always liked both. I like Star Trek first because Star Trek was out first, but I also love Star Wars, and Star Wars came out second, and they're very different sort of. Despite having the first name in the franchise, they're very different shows or franchises, I should say. But I've never understood that, that antagonistic sort of.
Me either.
It seems a little silly, but I loved it. I thought it was there were great nods. Anyway, I feel like I'm talking a lot tonight, so somebody else please jump in.
Well, I'm wondering, since we're just past the half-hour mark, if we want to wrap up this 9th episode.
I think we basically got to the end. So they get there, and the Ferengi are trying to steal fruit, which is growing on a tree near the station, and Orions come out and they're like, like, "We told you, to stay out of our territories, but it's the only fruit around." They're like, "That's not our problem," and the Romulans come in. Romulans are like, so they were like, we'll kill the Binars, and like, I don't care about that. And the Cardassians show up, and they're all like, and the Mariner just comes out. Mahara's like, so he's like, "Well, if we come from the north, we can flank them." He's like, "No, I'm going to do something harder." She's basically like, "All right, time out," and she eventually convinces them, like with a very rousing Starfleet speech about how they obviously something happened, and they find out like all their crews mutinied. And says, "We're not going to get off this planet by fighting. We have to work together. We all come from species that chose to build ships and go out into space, despite it being very dangerous. We have more in common. And the Orions are like about to spear Mariner, and then Tendi shows up, and they're like, Mistress of the Winter Constellations. And, she's like, this is my friend. You attack her. It is an attack on my house. They're like, we're so sorry. And they all agree to work together.
I love it when Tendi plays a Mistress of the Winter Constellations card.
Well, it's funny because that has pulled their ass out of the fire several times.
It is. And it is, I mean, she's so sweet. And so, like, she loves science, but she also has this, sort of assassin trained to childhood,
right?
Which is fascinating. And they're like, all right, like, we'll good to go. Then Mariner somebody beams her off the planet. Everyone's like, it's a trap. And Mahar says, no, she's honorable. This was not her doing, but I have a plan. So they send out a signal. The bird of prey, which was cloaked, comes in and be like, destroy the station. They do, but then they jump on top of the bird of prey. They pry open a panel, jump in. Mahar reestablishes his dominance as captain by eating part of the guy who stole his command, because his face is covered in that Pepto-Bismol blood.
Yeah.
And everybody's like a little like, oh.
Ew.
Yeah.
Talin neck pinches a Cardassian, which was it a Klingon? It was a Klingon, yeah.
Right.
She also throws a great bit of shade at Mariner because they get jumped by a Cardassian earlier. And Mariner's about to jump up, and she just like neck pinches them. She says, well, I could have taken it. She says, I'm sure you believe that.
I'm sure you believe you would. I believe you would have tried.
Yes. Yeah. So Mariner then wakes up in this very like austere cabin, and she says, what in the minimalist hell is this? And she tries to escape out of the room, and it opens up, and it is Nick Locarno, as we
dun dun dun.
There he is. Yep. Voiced by
that image is from later in the episode, but
but that's from the next episode. But it's great.
Here, but this is probably more what I needed.
Yes, there he is,
and that's how they set it up. Mariner gets beamed up to minimalist hell and meets Locarno.
Yes. The ship is called Nova One.
Captain Freeman discovers that Locarno is the one that has built the ship, and
so they have Nova Fleet. Nova knows on his jacket he has that starburst, like was supposed to be the Nova maneuver. Not the Nova maneuver. There was Nova Squad. I forgot what the name of it was. Something starburst.
Yeah.
All the ships, like he's got like Romulan ships and Klingon ships and Cardassians and Ferengi and a few others in there. Their sort of docking base looks a lot like V'ger. Like, remember they're going in V'ger, there was that weird sort of thing that Spock flies through. So definitely a little nod to V'ger in that.
Yeah.
That is a cliffhanger for episode 9. Chef's Kiss. Yes. Beautiful. Yeah. Again, we were discussing this earlier. I can't remember whether we discussed in the green room or here, but I would never have guessed Nick Locarno was going to be the big bad of this season.
No, we talked about that here, but and it's funny because we speculated all kinds of things.
Oh, we did. This was not even on our radar.
Nope.
No, that was. But my hat's off to the producers of Lower Decks.
And I have to admit, when I first saw that it was Locarno, I went, really? That's kind of lame. But by the time we get to the end of the second season, I'm going, you know what? I love it. It's great. Yeah. I'm all in.
Yeah. Well, it was a nice way to bring back that character, to have the Tom Paris joke, and to come up with a surprise. So,
So Freeman in the beginning, now starting the next episode, Freeman's talking. The cold open.
The flashback.
Oh yes, flashback to 13 years ago, with Locarno is still the cock of the walk, and he's talking with Cito, and Josh, who we never met in the original one because he was dead at the beginning of the episode,
Ah,
and a very young Wesley Crusher,
Wesley
voiced
Crusher.
by
Yeah.
voiced by our dear friend Will Wheaton,
Yeah.
who despite being older than Patrick Stewart was at the beginning of Star Trek Next Generation, still manages to get enough of that sort of like youthful vibe to his voice.
Yes, it was actually. I was really happy that they got basically all three of the original actors. Actors and actresses.
The actress who played Cedo came back. She's retired from acting, but she came back for this.
Cool.
And I thought she did a very good job. And then we get to see Mariner as a freshman cadet, first year
gung
cadet.
ho Mariner.
Yes.
It was.
Shall we say Boimler-esque, maybe?
Yes, perhaps. Yeah.
Yeah, she was so excited, and she's like definitely like has got a real hero worship thing with Cedo, who's very sweet with her, because he's like, like she comes up like Cedo history, and we're learning about the precursors. And the Zindi, did you know about the Zindi? They seem cool. I don't know if they're cool because we haven't learned yet. Blah, blah, blah. And he's like, I feel like I'm in class. She's like, it's okay. It's just like, it's all right. Other people are allowed to talk, Nick. And she's so sweet with Mariner, which was great. And they're talking about, we got this thing planned for commencement. It's going to be amazing, and we're going to make us legends. And she's like, yeah, it's like the only name they're going to remember after this is Locarno, and she's not wrong, as it turns out.
Yeah.
And it was 13 years ago, which puts Mariner's age like she's about 31, and the other characters are considerably younger than her, with the exception of maybe T'Lyn, who Vulcans age much more slowly than humans.
Yeah,
I'm not sure how old she is. She could be 40 and still youthful,
youngin.
Youngin. So, I love that. That was, again, folding the lore, the history, and getting to see Mariner being like old, excitable, and like thrilled about everything, as opposed to being like, yeah, whatever,
Right.
So then the Freeman is trying to listen. We've got his warp signature. We can track it, and I've forgotten the name of this admiral, even though he's appeared many times. The bald admiral. He's like, listen.
I remember.
He says you have to stand down because if a member of another species gets injured, it's a diplomatic nightmare. Federation can't fire the first shot.
Right.
And which was, and he's not wrong, but also, clearly she's like, going to disobey orders to do it. And everybody agrees, which was nice because everybody reports in, the whole crew is like, yeah, we're with you, Captain. And we even see Guji down in engineering helping out one of the ensigns.
This was one of my favorite moments in this show. Well, there were two favorite moments I had in this show. This was one, but the first one is when Locarno is broadcasting his demands. To the universe, to the galaxy, basically saying, we're Nova Fleet. If you're a lower decker, if you've been oppressed by the man, come join us. And you know what? We've got someone on board here who knows how to speak truth to power. Mariner, coming up. Tell him what's for. Tell what's for. She goes, I got a message for all you lower decks. This guy sucks.
He's stupid. He's stupid, and his plan is stupid. He only cares about himself. I love that. That was great because she totally he was so confident that she would be up for some mischief, and her reputation up till now definitely supports that. It's not out of nowhere that he believes that.
Sure. And we immediately jump back to the bridge. Yeah. And Captain Freeman goes, that a girl.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, while he's talking, both
Yes.
there's Boimler and Rutherford. Rutherford's like, he looks just like Tom Paris. And
Yeah,
Boimler's
I
like,
love
yeah, I don't
that.
see it.
Yeah.
They have the exact same face. He's like, no, sorry,
No.
you
Yeah.
know, which is as good an explanation as you could possibly have for the Locarno Paris paradox.
Yeah.
Um, I believe the reason, because I think Tom Paris's character was inspired by Nicholas Locarno, um, and for some reason I think maybe they would have had to have paid the writer who wrote that episode. They would have had to pay
There's
them.
a reason, and I forgot what it was. I was actually reading an article on this. There is a reason because they wanted Locarno to actually be the character.
Yeah,
And they ended up having to create Tom Paris for some reason.
And
And I don't know.
I had read that it was, yes, that they would have had to pay the original writer,
who created the
know,
character.
who
So,
created
and
Locarno.
since it was a regular, they were like, I don't want to pay this person every week for every episode of this. So that sounds like more like a studio decision than a
Yeah.
Yeah.
creative decision.
Yeah.
But they are, Tom Paris is the like the slightly less like Tom Paris was like he joined the Maquis, and he was less of a he was a better. I'm not saying he was a good person, but he was a better person than Locarno. Although
Yeah.
Locarno, to his credit, he's like he took responsibility, and like he said, it was all me, and he got drummed out, and nobody else got drummed out.
Right.
So, he's since perhaps regressed because he definitely
Yeah.
has a problem. Mariner then steals the Ferengi Genesis device, black market Genesis device, which was, there you go. We see that later on in the episode.
Yeah.
And escapes in a steam runner class ship, and starts flying around the system. Because that's the thing. He's like, hey, in case you guys think of like you want to try to break through the shield, I've got a Genesis device, so check that out. And it was we find out he's he's encased the system in a Trinar shield. There are 3 Binars on his bridge, which is why it is the Trinar shields. There they are. Mariner comes in, who apparently speaks Binar, because we saw her speaking to the Binars back on the planet. And she comes and goes, hey, Binars, and they're like, rah, 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 rah. She's like, right, and he's like, can you have 3 Binars? So this shield won't let her escape either, because unlike a standard Federation or Klingon or Romulan shield, which you can fire out from, she couldn't fly her ship out of the system.
Right.
So she's playing hide and seek with this crew, this sort of fleet of misfit lower deckers.
Yeah.
Meanwhile,
But then you have the plot with Captain Freeman, who needs to find a ship that can get past the shield.
Right. Yes, well, because they were like, well, the Cerritos doesn't have enough firepower, and then Tandy says, I may have an idea. So they go visit her sister,
right?
And they're like, listen, this makes the Federation look bad. What do you want to do? She's like, yeah, no, it's a pass. And then Tandy evokes the barter by combat.
Barter by combat.
Yeah. And yeah, it is. Each side chooses a champion. If they win, they get. She gives them a ship, and if they lose, they get the Orions get the Cerritos.
Yeah.
So
what is this? I'm trying to remember. What is this moment?
That is towards the very end.
That's after they've rescued. That's at the very end.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Very good.
And they've got Shax, and they've got Ransom, and they've got now I can't remember the other security officer's name, who is from the planet of metaphors, and they're all like ready to like throw down. They're like flexing. Shax is literally like foaming at the mouth.
Right.
Beheth was the tall blonde Orion. which is I love the idea that her name is just Beth with an apostrophe.
Yeah.
And Tendi chooses Dr. Miglimo.
Yeah.
And it turns out Beth has lots of allergies because Tendi trained with her.
Right.
And there's Dr. Miglimo in this sort of gladiator outfit, who's just like maybe we should why don't we like air our grievances over a nice bowl of slime, and she's just like keeps trying to kill him, and Tandy tells him to puff up his down, which sets off an allergic reaction in Beth, who unfortunately passes out on top of Dr. Miglimo, causing them to lose. I feel like that's a real loose interpretation of the rules.
Well,
but,
in all fairness, they're playing this game on Orion, so it's hard to beat the house.
Yeah, I don't think the house always wins on Orion. I don't think there's a
Well, and it ends up winning in the end anyway because they get the ship.
They get the ship,
but it doesn't work.
But how do they get the ship? How do they get the ship? Because they're about ready to hand over. They're about ready to hand over the Cerritos.
Right.
And Tendi goes, "Wait, there's something you want more than a ship." And the sister goes, "I'm a pirate queen. What would I want more than a ship?" "You want me, the mistress of the Windsor Constellation."
Yeah, right.
And well, I mean, you would be better than a measly support ship.
Yeah.
And of course, Billups goes, "Oh, well now." And
he rolls up his sleeves, and then Ransom's like, "Andy, be quiet."
Yeah.
Which was a great moment.
They
give them a battleship, and it turns out it does not work.
Right.
She's like, "Well, we never discussed, whether it worked or not." So, which is very Orion move. She's like, "Well, that's not fair." She says, "No, but it is very Orion."
You're right.
And they're trying to figure out what to do. And Rutherford and his arch nemesis Livick are arguing about Livick. And Tillin says, "I have a solution to find a compromise." And Billups is like, "Oh, Vulcan mind meld." She's like, "Something less intrusive." And they twain it. They both dress up like Mark Twain on the riverboat, and they both find that accord that apparently you can only find whilst dressed. Well, two people are dressed simultaneously as Mark Twain.
And I love Captain Freeman's response as she's watching this go down. Because she's trained in diplomacy and things like that, and she's going, "Why does this work?"
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Often an illogical solution will provide a logical, illogical process will provide a logical solution. So, and Boimler is all tearing up over it, and So meanwhile, Mariner on the run, she flies into she's flying into, I think it's supposed to be the rings of a planet. It's like all these ice formations, these giant ice crystals being pursued by the Ferengi. And she's like, "Why do you even work for this guy? He doesn't care anything about profit." They were like, "There's more. That means more profit for us."
Right.
It's like, "We don't take orders," but she's able to escape from them. And then she's like, the ship is very badly damaged. And she's like, "Well, I got to get rid of this. I got to get rid of the Genesis device." And she says, "Well, there's one uninhabited planet." She's like, "Okay, I'm just going to drop it there."
Detonate it there.
Yeah. And she heads off there, but then she's intercepted by the Romulans, by Locarno, the Cardassians and Orions, and a couple of other ships. And then we have our Wrath of Khan segment of the episode. I don't care that I love that it was almost like a beat by beat reproduction of the Nebula, the Mutara Nebula battle. They're like passing over each other. Screens are all fucked up and static. I just learned that Dr. Miglimo is, yes, by Paul F. Tompkins, the great Paul F. Tompkins, who is a very funny stand-up and does voice acting as well as regular acting. So
right.
I highly recommend you look up his stuff. He hosted the official Star Trek podcast with Tandy Newsom uh, before the strike happened. I imagine they will come back at some point.
Right.
They usually do it during when Star Trek is on. They come on, but obviously they could not do it this time.
I thought
but
the
yes.
music, by the way, was fantastic.
Oh yeah.
In this episode, it had that Wrath of Khan feel to it. It had that cinematic feel to it. It was really not good music for this episode.
Yes,
it was. It was like, that there was like all those beats, and it just, Mariner's like, well, I got to set this off, and she starts it, and it's a Ferengi, like there's a Ferengi interface. It's like, this bomb will detonate in 5 minutes. Little cartoon Ferengi face. And she's like, Ferengi interface on a Ferengi bomb. This is, I like it.
Meanwhile,
but yeah.
Meanwhile, let's not get we still got it. We still got the feds. Still have to, Captain Freeman and company still need to get through the Trinar Shield.
Yes.
While all this is going on, and we get to see again. I said there were two. I think there were like more than two favorite moments here because we get another of my favorite moments right here as they have a plan. The plan that apparently Livik and Rutherford came up with, which basically involves acting Captain Boimler.
Yes.
Acting Captain Boimler. And you know what? He does a good job of being acting captain.
Oh, yeah.
He does. The Admiral says, Cerritos, turn around. He's like, who the hell are you? He says, acting Captain Boimler. He says, I order you to turn that ship around. He says, I will do that as soon as I rescue my friends. And you see that the Cerritos is with a tractor beam towing the Orion battleship, and they just get to a certain point and they peel off, and it smashes in the Trinar shield, like causing a gap. And Captain Freeman and the rest of her command crew sail right through in the captain's yacht.
Yacht.
This is the first time we've seen a captain. We've seen the captain's yacht used briefly in in Lower Decks before, but not in space. It was just like, they climbed down and were in it. This is the first time in the history of Star Trek, we have seen the captain's yacht like detach from the main ship and fly. They fly right through.
It's got a real, look at all those L cars in there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's got a real classic post TNG look to it.
Yeah, it definitely does.
Yeah.
And I was like, that was brilliant, because I was like, I have no idea what they were planning to do. I was like, because we hear, Freeman talk with Boimler, and you're like, is she on the Orion ship?
Right.
But no, they're on and they zip right in.
Yeah.
Yes. It's
finally,
great plan. One of my favorite lines, they say this a couple of times, they threw a battleship at the shield.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Boimler says, I've never seen anybody use the captain's yacht, which was a nice nod to that.
Yes.
And then Rutherford goes, I do declare. I believe.
Yeah.
little Twain right in there.
I love that. That this running gag is great.
Yeah, it is bananas, but I'm like,
it is bananas.
They lean into it,
and I'm not a big fan in general of shaky cam, but at the moment where the captain's yacht peels off and goes screaming through the shield, we have a little bit of shaky cam going on there, and that's one of the few places where I thought it was perfect, because you really got a sense that this ship was going, like a bat out of hell.
Yeah.
Trying to get through that shield before the shield closed. Which
I actually think I really felt as though when you got to episode 10 that they really threw out all the stops in this. I mean, it was a really quality episode.
It was a quality episode.
Yeah.
Which brings us back now to what's going on the Steam Runner with Mariner and the Genesis device.
Yeah. So she's activated it, and she's like, all right. And then Locarno beams over, and she's like, "Listen, Nick, I turned it on. We just got to get out of here." And he's like, "You think I can't disarm a bomb? I graduated top of my class." She's like, "First, you didn't graduate.
Right.
which was like, you know, well played, Mariner, you know. And
Yeah.
then they get in, he's got like phaser rifle, and they're fighting, and she's like, they're like trying to convince him, like, let's just get out of here because this is too dangerous,
Yeah.
and he won't do it. And then he's like about to like shoot her, and then she's beamed out
Yeah.
by the captain's yacht, which was great, very dramatic. And he's like, I can't disarm a bomb. He goes over, starts messing around with it, and um, you know, Friedman is like, we got to get out of here, man. He's like, no, Nick is still on board. We got to get him out of here. And then he threw up the shields. You know, we can't beam him out. And she's trying to like, he's like, drop the shields, please, and we'll get you to safety. But he won't do it.
Right.
And but he does. He's like, you should have made the timer longer. This was easy. And they're like, basically, this is, please deposit 2 bars of gold pressed latinum to disarm this bomb.
Yeah.
Is they put a paywall on a bomb?
Yeah.
Isn't that the most Ferengi thing ever?
Oh yeah.
Oh my God, yes, that is the most Ferengi thing I can conceive of. And it blows up. They get away, and they definitely do that Genesis effect.
Yeah, with the rings. Yeah.
They're now everybody's back on the Cerritos. A planet formed through the debris, which apparently is stable. Apparently, the Ferengi were able to fix the instability. Perhaps they didn't use protomatter.
Maybe.
As our dedicated Federation scientists did. Perhaps, which shows what happens when you do shortcuts in science. Yes. It always backfires.
Which every ethical scientist knows is
right
unstable. So they managed to they get there, and so they're like, well, eventually we're going to use this planet for refugees. And he was like, well, maybe Locarno did some good after all. They named it after him, since it's decided that his atoms are part of the planet.
Yes.
And he's, well, there's the matter of your lieutenant. And then they cut away, and we see Mariner meet up with her friends. They're all hugging her, except for Tallinn, who stands there very, politely, let's say. And they're like, she's like, yeah, I think I'm going to maybe try not to self-sabotage myself. I think, Mariner was like, oh, that sounds like actually kind of healthy, She's like, well, now let's go in there. They go into the bars and like, let's get drunk, They sit down, and apparently also we find out that Rutherford and Livick are still foes because they pass each other as like Rutherford, Livick, and Tendy's like, well, I thought you guys liked each other now. She says, only when we're training.
Yeah.
Which is, by the way, a great line.
Yes.
I want to start using the word twaining in conversation at some point.
Yes. And they're all like, they're all feeling like, Boimler's kind of feeling like, how Ransom was very pleased with his captaining. And she's like, well, I'm glad to see it isn't going to your head, because he's definitely like, he's put on the captain voice.
Yeah.
But it's a lovely moment. They're all like, chanting lower decks. Again, all except for Tallinn, who's not really a chanter. Although I think the moment she does chant is when, she's part of it. She also gets a message from her former commander, and she does not accept the call, ignores it. And she's, Tendy's like, well, what if he wants to come back? He's, well, undoubtedly that is what he's calling about. But I feel like it would be most beneficial would be to stay here and become your science bestie. Yeah. She's like, don't say things you don't mean. She's like, why would I say things I do not mean?
Which is one of the most Vulcan things a person could say.
Very Vulcan, and is close as like, oh, you got it, bestie, that Tendi will ever perhaps get. But then the captain shows up, and right on the heels of a large starship warping in right next to the Cerritos, and it is sent by Tendy's sister, who wants her to come back to Orion right away, and they're all they say goodbye in the transporter room. And Rutherford is like the most broken up because they're so close.
Right.
And he's like, what about, the influx, valves? I can't remember whatever
Right.
bit of technobabble. She says, well, you just keep them clean until I get back.
Yeah.
And they beam her over and they're like, listen, you'll be okay. She's like, hey, we're like realigning the manifolds tomorrow. That's a Rutherford thing. Yeah, you should be happy. And he's like, yeah. But you can tell he's still kind of heartbroken at their parting. And then we see Tendi standing by a view screen or a window on the Orion ship as she looks as they warp away, and a very sort of sort of like movie era sort of warp, that sort of little rainbow circle that He turns around. She goes, she's like, all right, I've got this. She
puts on Orion face.
Yeah. And the music ends with not a sinister, but like kind of like not like that sort of triumphant sort of music, but something that's a little like, all right, shit's about to go down.
Right.
So I'll be very curious to see how she gets out of this. My prediction is she will get out of it by the first or second episode. I remember when we were trying to predict what was going to happen with when Freeman was arrested for alleged crimes. And we're like, oh, is it going to take the whole season? It's like, no, it was by the end of the first episode.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons is they only get 10 episodes. So they don't have time for like a long arc.
Yeah, they can't monkey around. Yeah.
I think the Orions aren't going to know what hit them. I think
I think she's going to go full mistress of the Winter Constellations to a degree that perhaps might unnerve her sister and or other Orions.
Yeah.
So I think she will. I am very confident we will see her back on the Cerritos next season.
Oh, I'm sure we will. Yes. Yeah, I'm sure.
So,
and I think you're right. 2 episodes tops before she gets back on the.
Like if it, because Boimler came back, he comes back at the end of the second episode when he's assigned to the Titan.
Right.
But I have to say, this was a terrific finale, or like a 2-part finale. I loved all the references to what had come before. I love the evolution of the characters. And again, Nick Locarno, Big Bad.
Yeah.
I don't know what the odds are in Vegas on that.
No. But you would have been very wealthy if you had bet on him.
Yeah, I wish I had the foresight. I might have played a small wager.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of season finales from Star Trek, and I'm not talking just animated Star Trek. I'm talking all Star Trek.
Right.
This is definitely one of the best in the history of Star Trek when it comes to season finales. It might very well be the most satisfying. I mean, all the little moments you got to see from the various characters. We see Mariner's growth. We see Captain Freeman be a good captain. We see Rutherford, with Livik's help, come up with a great plan to pierce the shield. We see Boimler just being a captain and being fucking awesome at it.
Yeah.
We see Mariner being the hero growing into the hero that she always is supposed to be, that she's more than just an agent of chaos, to use the phrase you used earlier, Leo. Yeah. Because, I mean, it's a kind of a small moment, but, they beam back aboard the yacht. And as you pointed out, instead of getting away, she says, no, we've got to take the time to save Locarno.
Right.
Doesn't work, but, she at least makes the attempt. We see Tendi kicking ass. Okay, her plan, through no fault of her own, her plan went sideways a little with Miglimo being squashed by F. But all in all, every element in this show worked. The throwing of the battleship. Oh my God, that's gorgeous. I love that idea.
Yeah.
one of the best, most satisfying episodes I've ever seen. And was this episode only half an hour long?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because goddamn, they packed a lot of shit into that half.
Oh, yeah, they
into
did.
this half
They
an
did.
hour.
Yeah,
it,
you're right.
it moved along at a very rapid pace.
Yeah.
And yet it didn't seem. I didn't feel like it was rushed at all either. It just,
No.
you know, everything took exactly as long as it needed to take. It was great. One of the best finales in Star Trek ever. In fact, I need to go back and watch the finales of Strange New Worlds again, just to see how it compares that. Because I seem to recall really enjoying the finale of Strange New Worlds also.
It was quite good, yes.
So I gotta see. I gotta start looking at some of the better season finales and see how they hold up, because
Right.
this was definitely one of the most satisfying.
Well, and you know why? So okay,
Yeah,
and
tell me why.
here's sort of a last thought. Well, because a lot of season finales tend to be cliffhangers to next season.
Yes.
And while you have that small cliffhanger about Tendi, this was a real wrap up of the season long plot.
Yes.
So
Yes.
it was very satisfying that way, because you got the end result of what the mystery has been in a very nice way.
Mm-hmm.
And also, like I said, I mean, Lower Decks has always been a humor program. And as Leo said many times, a love letter to Star Trek. But I feel as though this particular episode joined the ranks of any Trek
Yes.
that's out there, as opposed to just being a comedy program.
I agree.
I thought it was really well done, and I thought it was really exciting and just added a lot. I don't know, to the whole series. I thought it was great.
It was fantastic.
Yeah,
really one of the best ever. One of the best episodes of Star Trek ever.
I just want more. I'm greedy because I want more Lower Decks.
Yeah,
I want it right now. We will have to wait.
Well, hopefully now, as long as Paramount hangs in there, we will start to get some production back in gear, and we can. I know that I believe they were ready to go with Strange New Worlds, weren't they? Right before
I think they were. I think a lot of them were like not fully, like maybe not fully written, but like stuff was down, and they were like I
just know I read somewhere in this whole thing that once they got through the I guess the writers' strike,
yeah,
there was a lot of optimism about, well, we're ready to go, we just need to get started, and now we can. Of course.
So yeah, let's.
The actors, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, everything I think will be slightly delayed next year because of this, but I think we will. I mean, we're big fans of Stranger Worlds here at Trek Tonight, as well as the Lower Decks. Lower Decks just delights me.
Yeah, it's quite good.
You know, they both are. I think are wonderful. There's a mutual friend of ours who could not get it through the musical episode, but I love the musical episode of Stranger Worlds.
It was all right.
You know.
So the only real new Trek we have up in front of us is after January. That'll be Discovery whenever that drops for its final season, and I'm sure we will do a series on that.
Yes.
And been talking a little bit about, what we might do going through the holidays. Leo and I were discussing it. I haven't really talked to Keith about it yet, but so I am sure we will have something going on between now and
there's a lot of Trek to delve into, so it's just a matter of choosing what quadrant to explore.
So Angela says great show, guys.
Thank you, Angela.
Thank you, Angela.
Thank you. Anyway, I'm going to sign us out of here because I'm starting not to feel great.
All right.
It was really good to be back with you guys. I'm sure we will be back next week with something interesting to talk about. If anybody out there has any thoughts, feel free to write to us on the Facebook page or comment below on this episode about anything you'd like to see us discuss in the upcoming weeks. We've talked about what we want to do for Thanksgiving again this year, since last year's episode was so such a controversy.
Yes.
With the
Turkey.
with the Turkish trek. We might do something else interesting this year for Thanksgiving, pre-recorded, of course. But at any rate, guys, thanks again for being here. This was a lot of fun, and I'm gonna kick us out of here.
Live long and prosper.
Live long and prosper, folks, and we will see you next week at the same bat time.
Yes.